I feel like I'm fairly tapped into the model railroad world. I don't know everything, nobody does, but I think I can put a finger on the pulse of model railroading. And I've noticed several trends that have been on the uptick in the model railroad world. And no, I'm not talking about what kind of trains are being produced. I'm talking bigger picture. Hey everybody, my name's Jimmy. I'm drinking some breakfast blend coffee, and this is Coffee and Trains. This video is brought to you with support from Train Junkies. Train Junkies is a manufacturer of model railroad photorealistic backdrops from Z-scale all the way to G-scale. They can do custom backdrops too. Check them out at trainjunkies.com in the link in the description. If you want to tell me what kind of coffee you are drinking and be featured just like these guys right here, you can do that in the comments below, and who knows, you might see your name pop up on an episode of Coffee and Trains. Cheers, guys. Let's jump right into the first one. Niche products. Now, niche products have been around forever, but we have not had the availability to find them so easily. The internet commerce boom has changed all of that. The barrier for entry for an online store is now so low that practically anyone can do it. I sold in and HO scale buildings that I 3D printed for several years on Etsy. More and more people are creating niche products in their spare time and are selling them on websites like Etsy and eBay, and they're even making their own shopping websites. Even at train shows, I have seen vendors that have cases of custom parts like 3D printed details for sale. This is due to two main barriers for entry being lowered: online retail, which I've already spoke about, and manufacturing. You can start an online store for free, and for less than $1,000, you can have a 3D printer and the supporting supplies that you can sell stuff with. Now, I know $1,000 sounds like a lot, but when you compare it to something like an injection molding process, that is dirt cheap. There's even machines like the Cricut cutter, laser engravers, and even desktop CNC machines. All of these have reached the consumer level and are allowing people to do single unit or small batch production. The side hustle economy of model railroading has really grown and is frankly a really cool thing to see. The second thing is the explosion of DIY electronics. When it comes to model trains, they're somewhat less complicated than video games or other high-end digital products. At their core, they are electric motors driving wheels on tracks. They may have sounds and lights and occasionally smoke, but that's it. These are proven technologies, and standards like DCC have allowed for anyone to create electronics that can work with model railroading. The best example I can think of is the DCC-EX project and what they have come out with. You can literally build your own DCC system with off-the-shelf parts. I'm also beginning to see open source DCC decoders, such as stationary decoders for your accessories. Then you add in other accessory controls like turnouts, signals, and crossings, and you get a whole plethora of DIY electronics. This is why I love the Arduino so much. This can even lead to my first point of niche products and companies. Now, don't get me wrong, DIY electrical work has been part of the hobby since its inception in the modern form. But what we're seeing now from places like DCC-EX and the Internet of Toy Trains is really cool. The third trend is a spreading out of the hobby among age groups. This has really been perpetuated by social media. It used to be that model railroading was the standard. I loved it as a kid, then I got out of it in my teens and early 20s, then I came back to it as I got older. Now we are seeing it across the entire age spectrum with less of a dip. My demographics on my videos went from under 30% of my viewers being aged 18 to 54 to over 42% being 18 to 54. And it used to be that my 65 plus demographic alone was close to 50% of my viewership, and now it's down to under 35% of my viewership. Now that doesn't mean there's fewer 65 plus model railroaders, that just means that they're now a smaller fraction of the larger audience that includes younger people. And my 54 to 65 group has always hovered right around 20%, that hasn't really changed, but this is a statistically significant shift. Now, what does this mean? Well, let's take a look at what my three most popular videos are. They're beginner videos, not the top tier niche videos. What this says to me is that more people are looking to start in model railroading. If the opposite were true, my most popular videos would be more niche tutorials. This is a good sign for the hobby. To me, it says that model railroading, which started purely as model trains with a lot of emphasis on toy-like play, think of the Lionel sets and the Tycho play sets and things like that, it has completely changed and it is borderline a new hobby now. There has always been the modeling aspect in this hobby, but a lot of the growth in the past came from the play factor, the toy-like factor. But the hobby survived exiting of that stage and has really come into its own as a modeling hobby, while still maintaining some of that play factor. Think about op sessions. Yes, it is sad that we don't have things like the Tycho train sets on store shelves anymore. But keep in mind, the advertising with those was geared more towards the toy market, and that is a brutal and fickle market that very few have staying power in. Model railroading was able to successfully make the jump from being a part of that market to being its own niche market, and that is where we are seeing the growth. This is why higher detail sells. This is why shelf layouts exist. People are finding and rediscovering the hobby as something completely different than even when I was a kid back in the 90s. These are just 3 of the big trends that I'm seeing. I could definitely dive deeper into more subtle trends, but that would be a very long video. What are things that you are seeing in the hobby? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, drink some coffee, and happy railroading.